Welcome to the Business of Property podcast. I'm Simon.
I'm Stuart.
We're both property people running our own businesses. This podcast is just us chatting, as we often do, about anything and everything property. Just before we started recording, Stuart, we were having a little discussion about how exciting paint choices can be, or perhaps not. But that came out of discussing the fact that you've just started a refurb and are busy with other things as well. But shall we start with your refurb? What are you doing, or what are you having done?
Yeah, so I think I might have mentioned it in passing on the podcast before, but I've got it's a 4/5 bed property, which has previously been a student property, but hasn't been performing too well. And the reason for that is that I did a very basic, what I would call a buff and fluff. So we didn't do any refurb. Just a few years ago, we just tidied it up and painted it. And it kind of went against why I sort of moved into the property world, because I wanted to raise the standards basically. But it was one of these where the letting agent said, we've got people that are waiting to move in, so if you can just get it done quickly, we'll get them in. And that's what we did. But then over time, over the last sort of 2 years, the tenant profile has changed, and so the last set of tenants were the worst. And I think I have mentioned those on the podcast previously, so I'm not going to go into that. But let's just say that I did a little bit of shouting and a very little tiny bit of swearing with the tenants because of the condition of the property, even though they knew I was attending the property. And one of the rooms was void. So it went from me wanting to have very good high standard property to a low standard property that was with a room that was void and actually taking probably the lowest weekly room rate that I wanted to do. So that's just a quick bit of the background. So I was left with two choices, which was either we continue as it was, but that wouldn't have made me happy, or I do what I wanted to do. So what we're now going to do is we're taking it to a 5 bed. So we're going to lose a lounge, but we're going to knock through a kitchen diner, and we're going to make it 4 ensuites. So it's going to be 4 bedrooms with 4 ensuites. And then another room the smallest room gets its own little private bathroom just across the hall, which I've done in a previous property, which has worked quite well. So that's kind of the project plan.
Am I right in thinking you're also changing this from a student HMO to a young professional HMO as part of this refurb and upgrade?
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. So we'll be going to young professionals. It's one of those sort of moments where I've actually got 3 properties in the same street, which all sounds very grand, but it kind of happened over time. And obviously, once you buy in an area and a road that you like, you tend to stick there. And I like it because the houses all have character. They've all got a certain amount of curb appeal. But what happened was, so I've got 3 properties in that street. One of them is a young professional property, and the other 2 were student properties. Now, throughout the whole COVID-19 experience that we're sort of undergoing at the moment, of my portfolio, and these 3 properties are about a third of that portfolio, of my portfolio, the one property that just hasn't been a problem in the slightest is the young professional property. So we've had 100% occupancy, 100% rental. We've had no question about whether rent will or won't be paid, or the percentage of rent that's going to be paid. They have just been great. They've been fantastic. And, I've stayed in touch. In fact, the only time I get queries from them or emails is just the 2 emails I've had from them is, one, could we please have a bigger bin? And number 2, could we have a better Hoover? Both of which my enthusiastic response was, absolutely, of course you can. Because,
showing interest in cleaning. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
You can't ask for better tenants than that, can you?
It's brilliant, isn't it? And it's a great indicator that they actually give a bleep about the property. And that is because that property we refurbished to a very high standard. It has 4 ensuites. It has a private bathroom. So once they've moved in, my belief is that they're all just taking care of the property because they like that environment. So it's not rocket science, I know. So
you've got these 2 properties in the same street. Are they basically the same? Do they have the same internal layout and things like that? As in, are you doing exactly the same thing to them, or are they more different than that?
No. So I've got the 3 on the street. They're all slightly different, and the one that we're about to do it's only a 2-story house. Well, actually, it's got like a mezzanine floor, but it's very different versus the one that I just mentioned is 3 or 4 floors. So we have a basement level with 2 bedrooms. It's got 2 bathrooms. So yeah, they're quite different layouts actually. And this one that we're about to do needs a bit of extra work to make it a nicer property, which is why we're looking at knocking through the kitchen and diner, because at the moment it's quite a long. It's kind of longer, I guess, rather than having multiple floors.
Okay, so as you've started talking about knocking through rooms, how about we run sort of through the house from top to bottom or bottom to top or whatever, and you run through what you're actually doing to each area of it?
Yeah, so basically on the ground floor, if you go into it, so you've got a long hallway. So you've got a hallway, which is currently the lounge on the right hand side. Then you've got a bedroom, and then you go into what is a kind of, it's like a through room. It's a nothing really, but you would class it as a dining room. And then there's just a little door into the kitchen, and it all kind of feels a bit cramped and a bit claustrophobic. So the first thing we're doing is what we've said. We've had the structural engineer in yesterday, actually, to look at how we can knock through and make sure we can do that, obviously.
Without it all falling down on top of you.
Without the rest of the building falling down. And that's been approved. So we're knocking that through. And then what is currently the lounge, which is a huge lounge, we're knocking that about a bit. I won't go into it because it was a strange shape, but we're gonna make it a normal shape. And then what we'll do is we'll put we'll knock through the lounge into what is the bedroom downstairs, and we'll put 2 ensuites in, one for each room.
So let me just recap and check I've got this mental image right. So you go into the property, you've got your lounge on the right, and then bedroom behind it also on the right, and you're going to knock those 2 rooms through so you can put a couple of ensuites between them effectively and have 2 bedrooms in that combined space. So two bedrooms and 2 ensuites in that combined space that's currently the lounge and a bedroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want, we can put the floor plan on the show notes. I'm happy to share that in terms of the floor plan.
I think it'd be fantastic.
And my rudimentary sketching on top of that of what we're going to do. And we're just doing things. It's really hard to describe in audio, but there's a lot of things where I guess over the last sort of 20 years, what happens is people block things up. So in the hallway, there's just random boxing where they've covered pipe work and this, that, and the other. But it takes a lot of light out. So we're just going to knock a lot of stuff through, much to my builder's chagrin. We're moving sort of fire doors backwards because I just want to open up space and give it a feeling of more space and light. So we're going to rip up, and they've already ripped it up actually in 2 days. They've done an amazing amount of work, but they've ripped up all of the carpets and exposed the floorboards. So the plan is that we paint the floorboards.
Are you going to pull them up and run pipes under them or anything first?
We probably will need to do some of that. Depends which way we need to get the waste out. Mm-hmm. But there will be some of that happening, no doubt. And I guess the different bit that we're doing on the downstairs is on the left-hand hallway. We're going to use OSB boards, so like chipboard.
Not familiar with that. Okay.
So yeah, it looks like chipboard, but we're going to use that there's a big, huge wall on the left-hand side, and we're going to put that up on the left-hand side. We're going for the real industrial feel, so everything's going to be quite industrial. We're using scaffold boards for shelves, and in the bedrooms will be where there's current alcoves, we're putting scaffold boards in there, and actually where there's existing built-in cupboards, we're just going to rip those out, and it's going to have a very industrial feel. But on the OSB in the hallway, we're using this new LED strip lighting. So it's like tape.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap. So I've reduced the amount I was going to use after reviewing the quotes. But we're going to use that in a sort of hopefully subtle way, which will just lead people up the stairs so they can have some lighting up the stairs. And I think we may do that. So it's censored. So, when people come around, it pops on. And I guess the other thing downstairs to mention, so because of the way it's been used over the last few years, actually you've got this sort of diner area, then you'll go through to the kitchen, which is a small kitchen, and then there's one more door at the back, and you open that, and then there's a little toilet and a shower. We've actually already ripped that out.
Kitchen and toilet area in an extension?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, so it's sort of not full width. Is it a typical sort of 3/4 width from the extension out the back?
Yeah, pretty much that. And we've already ripped the shower and the toilet out and knocked that wall down, so it's now a bigger kitchen area, and we'll replace that kitchen.
Did you say you're also knocking through from the dining room into the kitchen?
Yes.
So that's all going to be open plan for that section?
As much as it can be. So I think we've already been told that we need to leave, if we want to get specific, 600 mil on each side, which I'm happy with, actually. I'd rather it be completely open, but 600 mil is the depth of a kitchen unit anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So it fits well if you've got cabinets butting up against those.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that's an issue.
Why have you got to leave that? What's the actual official requirement for that?
It's just the structural engineer's guidance on that one.
Okay. So it doesn't fall down. Okay, but good reason.
Yeah, so we're going to have to put a steel in anyway. But it is, like you said, because that's where the extension is. So that will be quite a key part of the house, obviously, the back of the house.
Yeah.
And then kind of upstairs, we've got on the mezzanine level. So when you go up the stairs, you've got a tiny room, which is, I'm rubbish at sizes, but it's a very small room, enough for a sort of biggish single bed. But strangely, it had a toilet in there.
Is that on top of the extension?
Yes.
Going up and then sort of on top of that. Okay.
Yeah, it must be actually. Yeah. Actually, no. It's above the dining room. It's above the dining room, so it's just a little room. So, we're keeping the. We're just going to sort of knock a few things down in there and just open it out a little bit, but leave the toilet because it is separate. There is a wall. I think the kind of most interesting thing for me in this house that we're doing is that what is the existing bathroom, we are going to split into two, so that it's really hard to describe. And again, it will look a lot simpler on a floor plan. But we've got a really big bedroom, which is adjacent to the current bathroom. First of all, we're going to knock a doorway through that from that existing bedroom into the bathroom. But then we're going to put up a stud wall so that big bedroom gets a nice size ensuite. But then what's left of the bathroom will be the private shower room for the smallest room in the house. And then the final bedroom up there will get its own ensuite again.
So you're largely keeping the bathroom where the bathroom is, but you're going to make it a bit smaller. Did I follow that correctly?
Well, it's going to be split into two. It's going to be split into two. So it's not changing size. Yeah, it's just going to get it's just going to get split into two. Probably this.
Yeah. One is an ensuite and one opening out into the hallway for the main bath. Is it going to stay a bathroom, or are you going to have to move it into a shower room with the smaller space?
Yeah, so there'll all be showers. So there'll be, we're taking the bath out.
Cool. And then the final bedroom is big enough just to have an ensuite sort of cubicle put inside it, is it?
Yeah. So what we've done before, we look at that. So we typically go for like 1,200 wide showers. But if you can imagine most Victorian properties, obviously you've usually got the chimney breast on the back wall there. What we tend to do is look at what that cove width is, and we'll place the ensuite into that area. So typically that will be around a metre. If we're lucky, 1,200, because the bigger the better, obviously. But if needs be, as looking on another project, we'll go 800 if we have to. But that's how we tend to do it.
So this is it's kind of 3 levels as you work up the house. Yeah. So you've got the ground floor which will be 2 bedrooms and then a kitchen, diner, lounge space, and then you go up to your mezzanine level, which is a partial level, which has got 1 bedroom on it, and then you go up again to the final set of bedrooms. Is that right?
Yeah, then you go up another couple of stairs. I mean,
if we prepared better for this, you could have sent me a plan in advance. But never mind. Okay, so yeah, and then on that top level, you're going to have 3 more bedrooms. No, hang on, I've got too many bedrooms here. How there's only 2 on that top level, yes?
Yeah, so there's only 2.
You've got 2 downstairs, 1 on the mid floor, and then 2 on the top floor.
Yeah, and to be fair, the floor plan wouldn't really help you with that anyway. So even if we had, because it's not very clear how that works until you're at the property.
It's a long time ago, but I remember being in some properties that had some very strange sort of split level affair things going on, as in you, for some reason, the extension, there would be, you had sort of the core house and you had multiple floors for that, but then there'd been an extension built on the back, but for some reason at slightly different floor heights. So the rooms that were in the extension were always sort of offset at half level floors. So you'd go up halfway and there would be an extra room that's in this extension out the back. And then you'd have to go up a bit again to get to the next floor of the main property. And then you'd go up halfway again for the next room that was in the extension. And then you'd go up again for the final floor of the main house.
Yeah, there must be reasons for doing that. But
yeah, actually, as I'm thinking through it in my head, having thought this was really odd, I think maybe it's because the old building had very high ceilings. So perhaps the extension rooms, floors were more modern heights, so they just weren't as high, and perhaps that's why they ended up offset. Interesting. Anyway, I don't have access to those houses I'm thinking of anymore, so I can't go and check.
Yeah,
they were actually old student houses that were in Brighton, run by my grandfather at the time. Sadly, no longer with us, but and then hence obviously don't have those properties anymore. But very interesting properties, very very old with a lot of history in them and a lot of adaptation.
Yeah, I really like, and that's another reason why I like going for the period properties. A, because I think they just look better, and being honest, I think that when it comes to exit, you've got a greater chance of selling them, or it helps them. But for me, they're just more interesting. I mean, the thing we're doing is, and I don't actually know what you call it, but in the ceiling there's a huge, patterned circumference around the ceiling. It's really ornate. That it might not be 100% original, but it's certainly been there, best part of 50, 60, 70 years. And because of the work we're doing, we can expose more of that. So some of it's been hidden. And I really like the fact that we're going to not only expose it, but we're going to paint it and actually try and bring some more of it out. And I love being able to bring out original features, I think.
That's an excellent segue into the next thing I was going to ask you about. Now we've got sort of an idea of the structural changes you're making up the building. What are you then doing internally? How are you decorating and finishing and things? You've mentioned already you're going for quite an industrial look, but how is that manifesting in each room? Are you doing sort of a different theme for each room at all, or is it consistent throughout? And what's it actually going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, originally we looked at probably too many features. So a lot of the rooms will have a feature wall. A lot of people do feature walls now. That's it's three wall colours of one colour, and then one wall that might be. Yeah, I know yellow was popular for a long time, but we wouldn't be going with that. I mean, on one of them I've looked at scaffold boarding, which we've done previously, but on this one we're going to use brick panels. I forget what we're called now. So again, they're not cheap. And originally I was going to look at different. So on one room I was going to do brick panels. The other there's a kind of really nice pallet board that you can buy now, that 3D pallet board that fits together. But to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, an ensuite is a feature. So I didn't want to go crazy. So what we will do is I'm now looking at this brick paneling that is ready to paint. So it's just whitewashed. So you can leave it as it is. And I've seen some samples and it looks great. But what we could do is then paint each room a different color on that brick. I mean, I'll have a think about it. But ideally in each room, all we're going to do is we're going to have one wall is probably the headboard wall will be the brick, and then the rest will just be painted. As I said before, where there are existing sort of built-in cupboards, and some of these are from the 80s, they don't look great. We're just going to rip that out and put up the scaffolds. We'll put a scaffold shelf in, and we will carpet the rooms, and that's kind of about it. And what I'll look to do is put like side table lamps, but coming out of the wall on each side of where the bed will sit. There'll be the key things that we do, and the downstairs hallways, like I said, there'll be all uncovered. We'll have floorboards potentially painted, and we've got the OSB for the main sort of hallway wall.
How about in the kitchen? Have you got that planned out?
Yeah, so we do use the kitchen before, which is really nice. It's becoming quite popular now, I think. It's a standard magnet kitchen, which is just matte grey. And, I've used it in one property. It looks really, really nice. But we also use copper handles. And the copper handle is a little bit more expensive, but really just give it this kind of extra...
Very, very trendy at the moment because they're antiviral.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a USP.
Yeah. Indeed, copper is very good at killing viruses and bacteria and fungus, apparently as well. It kills them not quite on contact, but within minutes.
Oh well, I'll put that in the when I'm advertising the rooms. That'll be on there. We've got a antibacterial kitchen, antiviral. So we've got that, and things like the banister. The builder's going to build me a new banister with like a bit of sleeper track wood, that kind of thing. So again, sticking with the quite industrial theme, I'll be looking at. I need to see what they look like, but copper switches, switch plates, and sockets, that kind of thing. Not everywhere, but just in some key places. So to really keep that industrial theme. We'll look at painting like the hallway ceiling a grey. So like, and where we've got I want to call it a rosette type
I don't know what
structure.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, rosette in the ceiling. We might paint that a grey. Like they may paint the ceiling white, but then the rosette kind of a greyish colour. And I'm sure it's not called that. And anyone that is a pedant, please do feel free to message us because I'd love to know. But and again, we'll look at the where we've got skirting boards in architraves and the rest of it. We'll look at whether we can go grey with those. It's that those aspects we'll look at once the property's done, because I don't want it to become almost a sort of pastiche of itself. I want it to just be quite, I want it to look good, but not make you feel like you've gone to, one of these sort of centres in the, I don't know, Chessington World of Adventures where someone's created a house. I want it to look like somewhere you'd want to live.
Yeah. For the kitchen, do you go in for sort of soft close hinges and sort of niceties like that, or do you keep it a bit more standard and basic?
Yeah, I think we'd go with soft close. I think everything just to for us again the priority is presenting a premium product, and
exactly, they do make it feel a lot better, don't they? A lot more, as you say, premium.
Yeah, and to be honest, the price differential is minimal, for soft close. So we'd put those in, because we will be ultimately looking for the highest room rates that we can get on the market, or higher than market, and those little things I think make a difference.
Have you checked the actual kitchen facilities you have to provide for your HMO license requirements and things in the area? Because I know from other HMO landlords that they've found that they've added an extra room, and that's meant they've had to have a cooker with an extra ring on, and therefore they've had to have a bigger hob or a double hob or something like that. Have you come across any gotchas like that in your area? Or
no, I haven't, and and that property. So it'll probably have more storage, for example, in the kitchen than it's had previously, anyway. But it's been licensed based on its current format, so I can't foresee anything changing in that respect.
Does it just need a standard oven and a sort of standard 4-ring hob, or is it bigger than that already?
Yeah, I think it was just standard. Yeah, I think for that what we had in there was just standard 4. Yeah, I'm sure it was 4 rings. Yeah, we had 4 rings. And
do you go in for washers or dryers or both, or dishwashers, or what do you provide in that sort of area?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you've heard a similar thing, but we'll provide all of the above. So we'll provide a dishwasher, washer, and a dryer, and we tend to do that separately. Just it's, I guess, now what we've got into the habit of doing, because I've always sort of heard that washer dryers are more of a pain should they break down. So yeah, and to be honest, a tumble dryer separately, it's fairly simple cost as long as we've got the space for it, which we have. So yeah, tumble dryer goes in there as well.
Do you have any concerns over power usage for tumble dryers? I know some HMO landlords go for having a dishwasher and a washing machine sort of open access, but then they'll put a coin operated tumble dryer in just because they're a bit heavier on electricity?
Yeah, see, the short answer to that question is no. I haven't ever considered it to that degree. I mean, on this property, I most certainly will be looking at price ceilings on utilities. So we'll do that. For me personally, I wouldn't want to put anything coin operated in the property. Again, for me, that would sort of lessen the premium feel that I would go
Totally
for.
agree. Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't do that. But the point around electricity is a fair one, and that has been something which as shared on this podcast, has bitten me on the bum on multiple occasions in very big ways. So it's something which is very prevalent on my mind at the moment. And so previous properties have all been bills included, but we haven't set limits on that, which I most definitely will be on all properties moving forward.
So I think probably the last thing to mention is the furnishings. Do you stick a bed and a desk in each room, and do you go for pretty standard ones? Do you have preferences on brands, or I don't know, anything as detailed as that, or have you not got that far yet? Are you just starting?
Yeah, we haven't got that far yet. The only thing I have done is sort of created a mood board, which sounds really grand, but it's essentially just me taking a lot of images from the web and doing research of what I really want the look and feel to be, because that's kind of what I've used with the builder, just that he's really clear on what we're going for. I think a lot of our stuff will be coming from standard places such as Dunelm. If we can get the look and feel from IKEA, we'll get it from IKEA. As always, budget is ever important. So we haven't gone into that greater detail, but there's a few things we want to look at. And I guess the one final interesting thing that I have looked at, which I did want to put in this property, but it seems to be receding now, is I wanted to look at a live wall. So potentially, with sort of foliage and live bacteria, and it looks a bit like moss. So that was something I was looking at. I then saw the price, so so that it may take the back burner for another property, but that is something I would like to start to get in, because the brand of house that I'm creating is inspired urban. That's the brand I'm looking for, and most people get inspired when they're outside in nature. So I wanted to think about how I can start bringing some of that inside, but watch this space.
So would that be a living wall within sort of a shared space, presumably not within each room or each bedroom?
Yeah, it would either be in a lounge, but the reason was because it was going to have a big lounge originally, but then we've decided to turn that into a bedroom. And then I think with everything that's going on, it felt a bit too much. And again, what I didn't want it to become was just a like a pastiche of itself and just become too much. So we'll see once the building started. If I think it's not making it too, I don't know, cartoonish, then I'll reconsider.
So although you haven't decided the details of the furniture, well, what furniture do you provide as a standard, as in a bed, obviously? But what else do you tend to include?
Yeah, we have to provide those bloody beds. I mean, I did get a complaint once about one of my tenants after a week. Sent me an email, said that I have a problem with the bed, and I said, "What's the problem?" They just said, "Well, I seem to not be able to sleep very well on it, and I don't think it's good for my back." And I said, "Well, they're all new mattresses. So, like, if you want a new mattress, feel free, go." But yeah, to answer the question, because we're probably getting to the end of the show, is we'll always provide a bed, and they'll all be doubles. Some smaller, for the small room, it would be a smaller double. Where possible, side tables. Like I said, we've got inbuilt sort of reading lamps in the walls that we're going to put in there. So we're going to have electric points for all of those. And in this one, so typically, a student property would be really simple. You're buying a set, which is a kind of a wardrobe, chest of drawers, side table, desk and chair, for example. So we are looking at still providing desks and chairs, but we won't be putting wardrobes in. So again, they'll be inbuilt into the walls and hopefully become a bit of a feature themselves. Potentially look at side tables. And again, we will have desk and chair. So in one of them, we're actually the smallest room. We're actually building one into the wall. So, yeah. So again, we'll look at space for that.
Fantastic. Well, that all sounds very, very exciting, and like your builder has got a lot of work to do.
He has.
And hopefully we'll revisit this in how long, when it should all be finished, and we can see how it's gone.
Well, I've already tried to shorten the timelines, but we're looking at 3 months. So August, September, October.
Okay, so we'll try and come back around that time, and perhaps you can have some before and after photos, and we can discuss what went well and what's not gone so well, and share some of those images. People always like looking at before and after refurb photos, so we can include some of those.
Got lots of those already.
Good. We've definitely reached the end of our time today. So I think it just remains for me to say to everyone listening, thank you very much for staying for Stuart's HMO refurb journey. And please remember to subscribe and give us a review if you can. And Stuart and I look forward to talking to you again next week.
See you next time.
Oh, I've forgotten to mention that the show notes are on thebusinessofproperty.com.